Reaching the edge of your Minecraft world might result in a magical blue border or a monstrous monolith mountain. The same is true for one of the best places to make a farm. It might work entirely fine or give you an error message, entirely dependent on whether you're playing Java or Bedrock. This confusion amongst the community is something that Mojang is keen to fix, because the color of shulkers, the explosiveness of TNT underwater, or even the ability for armor stands to dab should not be dependent on whether you're playing Minecraft or Minecraft. And just in case it sounds like I said the same thing twice there is Minecraft with the grass block for the logo, and then there is Minecraft with the so Mojang has been attempting to bring parity between the two versions of the game for quite some time now, and although in the past they've done a great job with things like seed parity or spectator mode, and it's one of the things that is the opposite of what Mojang is now doing, because instead of putting careful care into each feature and how they balance it from one version to the other, instead nowadays it seems like the easy solution is simply to cut features. Except never from the Java edition, of course, it's always the Bedrock edition which loses serious features. Lots of players love settling in a windswept savanna because you'd have this beautiful grass, which Mojang removed overnight. Lots of people would use campfires to set entities on fire, something the game had never told you was incorrect over 5 updates of being in there, but then this was removed by Mojang. Putting horses in boats is one of the basic building blocks of a brand new world that you're trying to explore, but then this was removed by Mojang, and the common trend you can see recently, alongside crafting recipe changes, is that Mojang is simply making Bedrock slightly worse to make it match Java in an easier way. This is something we must be incredibly cautious of as a community. Obviously, as Bedrock players, they are removing Bedrock features in the name of parity, but also it's incredibly important that Java players realize the features that they're missing out on. They could have simply added the horse boats to Java and everyone would have been happier. They could have simply added this prettier grass to Java and everyone would have been happier. The same is true potentially for winter mode. This could come to Java unless they just remove it from Bedrock. The mushrooms in a swamp could come to Java unless it's removed from Bedrock, and the same is true for every single feature in this list, and there are a lot of them, but it's important that as a community, we all collectively demand that rather than bringing the better version of Minecraft down to make it match the worst one when there's a feature that's hard to add, instead we make Minecraft better as a whole. You can't reach equality by dragging everyone down, you can only reach true equality by lifting people up. And so that is what we must be aiming for when it comes to Minecraft parity too. With that said, let's talk about the good things, because I don't want to just point the finger at Mojang and say, yeah, they've never done a good job. There are all sorts of good parity changes they've made to Bedrock in recent years. The world seed parity is a big one. Java and Bedrock have the same seeds now, which is huge. It doesn't affect structures, but it's a very big improvement. The same is true for banners on shields. This was a recent one. This came to Java in 1.9 and it came to Bedrock in 1.20, but I'm happy to see it. The same is true for spectator mode, death messages on the death screen, the ability to use dye on signs to change the text color. The short sneaking is huge, as well as the horse breeding traits, the transparent beacon and conduit particle effects, and all of the new sounds. I'll give you the full list of everything here. There are so many good positive changes that they've made, and I would love to see it be the same going the other direction. It is not that common that you get a lot of good features come from Bedrock to Java, and I think clearly, as someone who advocates a lot for Minecraft and the community on this channel, it's important that we all say these be good parity changes, these be improvements to one version of the game, rather than negative changes to another. These are things that Java players should specifically want. You know, they should make a good parity change, not a bad one. And let's start with the biggest one, biome tinted watercolors. This is one of my favorite Bedrock exclusive features, and I'm honestly not convinced they would add it today if they were starting from scratch. It's also quite weird because as well as having this weird red water that you would never realistically see in Survival for the Nether, and this purple water for the end, we also have the ability to dye water any color, because you can put water in a cauldron on Bedrock and then dye it using regular dye. In fact, this is the way the dye system works there. You can't just put dye straight onto armor. That makes no sense compared to dunking your leather clothes in here. I think the best way to duplicate this is a prime example where Minecraft says, ooh, dyeing works like this on Java and like this on Bedrock, but the clear solution is allow both platforms to do both. This might seem redundant, but actually, if you look at it, the Java system is easier to do, but is much more wasteful with dye. You have to use one piece of dye for every piece of armor, whereas on Bedrock, you put your same piece of armor in the cauldron, which has been dyed just once, meaning one dye can go much further using a cauldron, meaning that even if both editions had both, some players would still choose to go the easy way and some players would choose to go the efficient way. This is similar to how potions can be placed in cauldrons, and to be honest with you, this one is kind of weird to me, because what is the point of a cauldron on Java if it can't do either of these Bedrock exclusives? But that is besides the point. Next up, we have fallen trees. These are very much dead trees. As you can see, they are sideways on the ground. This is one of those slightly odd features that honestly adds a tiny bit of ambience to the forest, forest. I have to admit that when I used the Bedrockify mod recently, it did give me a tiny bit of the glimmer of joy that a dead tree could give, but it is a weird one. But the weirder one is dying trees. Why is it that a tree covered in vines is dying? If you covered my house in vines, would my house be dying? If you cover me in vines, am I therefore about to die myself? These are just the rules I want to get clear, just like how placing blocks is something which I find to be something I fear a lot when it comes to the Java edition. You have to crouch over the edge and you have to place one like this, when I'd much rather just place them out in front like you can on Bedrock. This is one of those really simple features that makes Minecraft so much more usable, because there's so many times where you have to place blocks out in midair. It is so much easier, and honestly, the only thing that makes the Java method even somewhat redeemable is the fact that they added Swift Sneak, but then that means that Swift Sneak is way more useful on Java, where you actually need to crouch a lot. And so now, by fixing this parity issue, you also kind of nerf one of the enchantments, but I guess that's a fairly small issue. Another one that I think is just kind of odd is the fact that blocks placing speed does not match the player movement speed on Java. You can hold down the use button on Bedrock and just keep placing as you go along. This is a really clever thing to line up, just like how blocks being placed from further away is just generally handy. This is just the sort of feature that is universally good. No one has ever complained that they can place blocks from too far away, especially in creative, but the next one here is one you might not have even known about, and it maybe is hard to explain, so hopefully as you look at this you can understand that if you place blocks continually using the use button and then move your crosshair direction, then they will still place in the same direction, which is really handy for all sorts of weird controller stuff. This is something which is just really nice. It's a weird exclusive, but as you can see, it just makes Minecraft a little bit easier to build in. I think building should be made as easy as possible, because you need to place a lot of blocks by hand. This is a near given for 99% of players. I know there are some things out there that can ease this up, but why not make this as easy as possible? Every single step that can be taken to ease the way that building is done on a default manual input mechanism is something that Minecraft should be doing on any device, in my opinion, and the only reason it's on Bedrock is because it's from console. This is something that should move to Java edition. Just like how I think the way skeleton horses work is kind of odd. They do not require a saddle to control them on Bedrock, something I really love. They don't have the inventory slot for it, so they couldn't take one even if you wanted to. By the way, something else that you could have even if you wanted to are squids, glow squids, and dolphins all having baby variants. My god, these things are all so cute. I mean, I have to say though, baby squids are a bizarre concept, because it's not like you can breed two squid together. Instead, the baby squid just kind of spawns into nothingness. I feel as though almost every mob in Minecraft, you can make a decent excuse for breeding them, and I think rather than having to make squid farms the way we do right now, wouldn't it be cute if you could just have a big body of water and breed some squid in it? Maybe that's just my dream, but yeah, I guess we're kind of getting off track from the main parity point, because here's an easy parity point. Chests, hoppers, dispensers, and droppers cannot be pushed by pistons on Java. They can on Bedrock. Why not move this feature over? There's actually a really fun reason why. It's to do with the way entities work between versions, but that is the sort of parity feature that Minecraft should be thinking about, because it would add value to Java edition players. Also, snow logging is a really weird one, but I think would be great. Snow being affected by gravity as a whole, leaves turning white during snowfall. This is kind of known as winter mode. That's a very old Minecraft game mode that's referencing. Coordinates being displayed on the screen at all times. Bone meal being able to be used on sugarcane. Grass paths being obtained using silk touch. Armor stands having arms. Armor stands having different poses. You know, this dab is the famous one. Cakes stacking up to 64. Potions of decay. Desert wells having double the chance to generate. In exchange, Java gets double the nether fortresses. Maybe all structures should be made more common on both, or at least made the same consistency on both, because right now that is a big thing standing between us and seed parity. Also, the fishing rod being 3D instead of 2D. Wet sponges drying after some time when placed in a desert, savanna, or badlands biome. Leads being attached to walls and bolts. Strongholds having a specific increase in chance of generating when under a village. Cauldrons in a witch hut generating with a potion inside. This is another cauldron specific Bedrock feature. Did one of the Minecraft Pocket Edition developers just love cauldrons or something? But anyway, the next one here is if a nether portal generates in midair, it will generate with netherrack around it. This is a really cool one. A lot of the portals in my very Let's Play world actually have these floating netherrack platforms, and it's one of those features that has a quality of life increase with basically no downside, because honestly, when you generate a portal in midair, having to fly back into that or build blocks back into it is so much harder when you don't have just a few netherrack blocks around it. This is the sort of feature that was made by someone who actually plays Minecraft, and although I do think this is massively useful to the game, I'll admit the opposite is true for the nether reactor core and the glowing obsidian. These could be added to Java just for the sake of new blocks. They're only really available via commands and editor mode on the Bedrock version, but still there's some value in it. Also, drowned and ghast eyes glowing. These are quite recent mob additions, so why is that the case? I'm not too sure, but something that should definitely be added is armor stands holding items in their hands, book and quill showing 2 pages at once. Seriously, why do Java players get to see 1? I could see the argument that, oh, inferior Android players just don't have as much screen space, so can only fit 1 page there, but it's the other way around. Why is it that Bedrock just has a better book and quill, and why is no one complaining given that the keyboard, input method is the best one for the book and quill? It's so confusing. Just like sheep who don't retain their wool color when sheared. If you have a Java sheep, better hope you know what color it was before it was sheared. Obviously, when you shear a sheep, some of that's going to be left over, just like this. Wow, look how easily we could improve the Java edition. I see it, certainly, but there are some things where I'll admit it's a bit more of a blurred line as to whether it really adds to one addition or not. So, for example, having dead coral blocks generating coral reefs, I don't really know that that's a great Bedrock feature. I'll have to admit that the void having invisible barrier at Y-104, I'm not sure that it needs to be there. It feels natural to me, but I'll admit, I don't love it. I'm just really used to it, and I admit that I might get just as easily used the other way, and the same thing has to be said for the paper doll that exists in the top left. What is this guy, and why does he exist? Why is this such an essential part of the Bedrock experience? I really don't know why this thing is here, and if it's so important, why is it a Bedrock exclusive? Because it will tell you if you're flying, or you're running, or you're swimming. It can be quite useful in those ways, but surely you would know if you're flying, or running, or sprinting, or swimming, or whatever else, based on just exactly what you're doing manually. I feel like you'd have to be really new to Minecraft, and even then, it's a tiny little paper doll, so who is this really helping? I would love to know if you've genuinely found this useful, because I don't know that anyone exists. I feel like the vast majority of people are just now learning, oh, yeah, there's a person in the top left, because you can play Minecraft for years without noticing this thing, so why does it even exist? It takes up quite a bit of real estate too, just like how these pandas and these bamboo are taking up valuable real estate in the jungle. I do feel as though having bamboo spawn a little bit more commonly is never a particularly bad thing, and I want to quickly mention something fun. In the process of making this video, one of the features I was going to talk about has been removed from Bedrock. The very issue I'm trying to talk about with this video of good features being removed from Bedrock rather than being added to Java literally happened to one of the items on this list, and I'll mention it real quick. I just need to also quickly mention that there is brand new merch available at ibxtoycat.store. You might have seen the big salmon energy, obviously the best Bedrock exclusive, but there's also the That's Future Me's problem, which is a great shirt, and all of these shirts are deliberately designed to be worn by basically anyone without having to be particularly tied to a YouTuber. I don't want to be one of those people who's like, yeah, wear this to specifically show you love me. No, I really like these designs, and I hope you will too. They come on very high quality t-shirts, and we can ship to basically anywhere in the world. If you want to get your hands on a high quality t-shirt, then ibxtoycat.store is the place to do so. Also, hoodies if you happen to be cold, and also mugs that remind you we'll all die someday. Man, don't I have such a great merch collection? Just like how Mojang has a great collection of features which they're painfully removing from Bedrock one by one, and the one I just mentioned, the one that I really loved and really thought was great, was putting buttons on walls and fences. This would allow walls to go wide in a way that was great, and also allow you to do all sorts of decorations. It has been removed. They should have added this to Java. Mojang, please, I wish you'd watched this video, but obviously it hadn't come out at the time, but all of the rest of these features are great examples of things that really could be greatly improved. The allow, deny, and border blocks are creative exclusive blocks that are really, really fun. Bells being run with projectiles are things that you could add. If you're Java Edition developer and you're sitting here thinking, how do I make the game better? Any one of these features could be great. Armor stand stacking to 64, renaming boats and minecarts, displaying the name above them. Wait, is that really true? Okay, this is my renamed boat using the URL of that great merch site, and whoa, you can put names on boats? I don't know how I didn't know about this one. Also, man, boats are such weird items, huh? None of this makes any sense to me, but I guess maybe it doesn't need to. Although that seems to have broken something, huh? Whoa, what have I done? I don't know. I really don't know. So yeah, did you know Minecraft is filled with all sorts of fun exclusives and bugs, just like... I found that by accident right now, but it is kind of cool, huh? Did you know this also applies to armor stands, apparently? So we go in there and we type in armor stand, but the American way, despite having British English enabled, and we rename this to, my other favorite thing, which is to subscribe. That's definitely how you spell it. Then boom, now we have an armor stand, which does not have the label. Oh, that's actually quite weird, huh? So yeah, boats being renamed, but not armor stands, apparently. Okay, that bug gets me thinking. Clearly, the way that boats work is slightly broken because you can place sand in the boat in a way that that doesn't necessarily make sense to anyone outside. However, if placing it on this last block causes buggy things to happen, as you can see it definitely does, we should be able to place a bunch of sand blocks there even, which means we can place, say, 100 of these in the air, and then, oh yeah, look at that, they're slowly turning into sand blocks sometimes. But also, we've got so many sand blocks stored in this one place, which will all vanish. Oh, the boat keeps it all in the air, and then we can drop it all down. Okay, I don't know what just happened, but it's confusing, huh? Look at this. What is happening here? Oh, it's so weird. It's so bizarre. Well, that's pretty cool, huh? It's also pretty cool that you can dye shulkers. It's really cool that skeletons will deal melee damage when they're underwater. They know they shouldn't be using their bow. Also, using bone meal on small flowers spawns other flowers of the same type. This is so handy for getting the dye that you want in particular. Why is it exclusive? Why do fishing rods have 6 times higher durability? Why do you sometimes spawn with a map if you choose to, but there's no choice for that on Java? Why is there a separate empty map and locator map? And the locator map is the one that you spawn with, even though empty maps are the one that you craft by default. Why is it that baby husks and zombies can ride adult every single mob in the game, including zombies, by the way, which is absolutely hilarious? Why is there so many more of these jockeys? These all seem like such clear examples of ways you could improve Java by taking a Bedrock exclusive. And before you say to yourself, wow, Toycat, you've said that 5 times now, you've said that 1 billion times now, you've said that 18 quintillion times, you don't need to say over and over again that a Bedrock exclusive feature should be moved to Java rather than removed from Bedrock, and that's not my overall stance. That's only my stance for lots of things that are exclusives in the good way. You know, someone put time and effort into making the game better with exclusives. There are Bedrock exclusives that would make the game worse, and let me share with you those now. Okay, so clouds are tinted red at sunset and sunrise, the sky becomes darker when the player is looking directly at the sun, the food mechanics are painful and they just do not work the same way, healing takes a full minute from node hearts to all the way over the top of it, bed item texture does not use the bed model, I really get confused by that one, the chest and trap chest item textures use the old model, that's right, the model you'll see in the hotbar is different to the model in the game, that's just lazy, that's just something that should be removed as an exclusive. Phantoms deal significantly more damage on all difficulties than they do on Java. This is a bad exclusive, which, you know, some Minecraft Bedrock developer was seriously hurt when they were younger, and they decided to take it out on the entire community who didn't vote for the Phantom, which not only was that the majority of players, but also even players who want the Phantom have regretted it. Also, players take full damage when in a boat, meaning when you watch YouTube videos that tell you, oh, you can just take a boat into a cave, you end up dying when you try the same on Bedrock. And finally, coral fans on a wall have 1 texture pane when they should have 2, and nether fossils are much rarer than on Java. And I could continue going on with this. There's a lot of features that are probably somewhere in between. So nether caves that are low down, not filled with lava, feel a little bit weird. Crimson and warp forests are much less densely populated, which means you can actually walk through them. That might make the game easier, you could argue. There's less tall grass in plain savanna, jungle, and meadow biomes. This is a bug, but a weird one. And then also there are randomly rotated textures on clay, coarse dirt, crying obsidian, dirt, glowstone, leaves, magma blocks, nilium, obsidian, sand, sandstone, snow blocks, sponges, terracotta. Why are they rotated randomly? I don't know, but when you look at my big netherrack cube, things start to get a bit weird, like it just doesn't look right. I placed that as perfectly normal textures, and they're all rotated just because it's Bedrock. Also, eating a slice of cake makes an eating burp sound. Ghast fireballs can destroy chains. Item frames are blocks instead of entities, which I think helps with performance, but does lead to some weird things like not being able to place multiple times in the same block. And finally, the sharpness enchantment does much higher damage than Java because of the lack of combat changes, which is really the biggest one here. Is the combat, which is exclusive to Bedrock, a good or a bad thing? It entirely depends on whether you like dual wielding, it entirely depends on whether you like the delay and you like the skill that comes from that, and it entirely depends on whether you like the nerf that came with all of the enchantments and potions around that. I'm not here to get in a big debate about how combat works in Minecraft and how it should work differently. I think there are a lot of changes that Minecraft need to make, and I do agree that as a studio, it's very hard to work out when a certain change is good and bad, and there are all sorts of new features which do require a lot of testing, and I understand that there's a big task being done at Mojang in making new updates, but I do think that the one single guiding star they should have when it comes to parity is don't make one version of the game worse. If there is even 10% of the player base who feel like one of their favorite features is being destroyed, don't destroy that feature. If 10% of the players made their base in a windswept savanna specifically because they like the grass there, don't remove that feature even if you think it was an accident. If 10% of the player base really loves putting horses in boats and indeed have been using that as their main way of getting around, don't break people's existing worlds for the vague notion of parity. That is my message to Minecraft developers, and my message to the community is it's very important that we stay active and we stay opinionated in praising Mojang when they actually make positive parity changes, and that we obviously guide and make our opinions known, because I think that a lot of Java players genuinely don't know much about the Bedrock Edition and don't know about all the features they are missing. So hopefully, if anyone in your life plays Java, if that's you or anyone around you, please watch this video, and if you have a feature request, you can go to feedback.minecraft.net or the Minecraft suggestions subreddit, and if any of these features are important to you, I would encourage you to request them on your version of the game. We know that Mojang aren't just going to take one random word of one dude on Twitter, but they might take your collective opinion, and that is something we need to do. We need to take action on, and I hope that this video has been useful for that. It took a long time to go through every single exclusive and talk about them in that way, but I hope you found it useful regardless. This is part of my big push to make sure Minecraft does a better job on parity, and so I hope you will enjoy this video. Subscribe if you want to see more about the differences between Bedrock and Java. I recently turned Java into Bedrock Edition, so you might enjoy that video. But for now, thank you, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.